When night falls, the darkness starts to speak. Between each breath and the silence there are whispers no one was meant to hear. This is Night Whispers, where the dark has a story to tell. This happened years ago, but I still remember every miserable detail. I've never been the camping type. Dirt, bugs, and sleepless nights just aren't for me. Yet somehow I always ended up dragged into it, pretending to enjoy nature while counting the hours until I could go home. My dad lived for the wilderness, mud, mosquitoes, and all. Every summer, like clockwork, he'd pack the truck, round up his rugged buddies, and haul me miles from civilization to find peace. For him, silence was sacred. For me, it was torture. By sophomore year, I'd made up my mind I was done pretending to enjoy it. When my dad finally said yes to me bringing a friend, I almost didn't believe it. I picked Charles from school, the perfect mix of calm and capable. Sure, he'd been a hardcore Boy Scout and actually enjoyed sleeping under the stars, but he wasn't the preachy type. Instead, he made the trip sound almost tolerable. Charles laughed at my dramatic complaints about dirt and bugs, but never in a mean way. He wasn't one of those real men camp in the wild guys, he just enjoyed it. I knew if I had to endure another miserable trip, at least I'd have someone who could build a fire and pitch a tent without chaos. Charles was genuinely thrilled to join. Not only did he love camping, but at that age he'd grab any excuse to escape his parents' constant arguing. From the moment we arrived, it was obvious something had gone wrong. Instead of the quiet, secluded forest my dad had promised, we pulled into what looked like a suburban park with tents. There were bright floodlights, families grilling hot dogs, and a neon sign pointing to the camp store. My dad's jaw literally dropped. This wasn't camping, it was a glorified backyard sleepover, and I could already tell he was furious. At first, I thought the fake camping setup was bad enough, but then came the real shock. Just beyond the tree line, bright lights flashed and music blared. A mini amusement park. I'm talking Ferris wheel, roller coasters, the whole deal. My dad's face turned redder than the campfire we hadn't even started yet. For him, this was the ultimate insult to nature. It honestly felt like we'd stumbled into some weird dream, a mashup of forest and carnival that should never exist. My dad muttered under his breath about city people ruining everything, while his friend just shook his head. Charles kept repeating, "This isn't real camping," in that smug tone that made me want to shove him into a tent pole. By the third joke about my family being rookie campers, I was done laughing. Deep down, I knew Charles didn't mean any harm, but after hours on the road and my dad's constant grumbling, my patience was gone. I snapped at him to cut it out, and to his credit, he did. Still, the air around camp felt heavy, everyone silently wishing we'd picked anywhere else. But since we'd already driven halfway across the state, all we could do was set up, smile, and pretend we were having fun. Charles beamed like he'd just won a merit badge, while I stood there holding a single tent pole, feeling useless. My dad clapped him on the shoulder and said, "You should teach my son a thing or two." That stung more than I wanted to admit. I muttered something about going to grab firewood just to get away from the smug smiles. Still, I had to hand it to Charles. Our setup looked perfect, almost too perfect for a place that already didn't feel right. We snuck a little deeper into the woods, far enough that we couldn't hear the adults anymore. Charles sparked the pipe, exhaled, and handed it to me with a grin that said, "Your turn." I hesitated, but the quiet hum of the forest and the glow of the ember made everything feel strangely calm. For a few minutes we just sat there under the stars, talking about schoolgirls and how nothing ever happened in our boring town. It was stupid, but it felt like freedom. After a while, the high settled in, and everything around us felt softer, the chirping crickets, the rustle of leaves, even the distant laughter from the campsite. Charles started telling some ridiculous story about sneaking into a golf course at night, and we both nearly cried laughing. For the first time that trip, I actually forgot how much I hated camping. In that quiet pocket of the woods, it almost felt like we had escaped everything, even ourselves. Charles leaned closer, eyes gleaming in the dim lantern light. "Come on, man," he whispered. "We're already out here. Might as well make it worth it." I rolled my eyes, half expecting one of his dumb pranks, but curiosity crept in. The campsite was quiet, everyone asleep, the night air thick and cool. When he finally hinted at what he really meant sneaking into the amusement park, my hesitation melted into a rush of adrenaline. The more he talked, the more it sounded like an adventure we couldn't pass up. I could already picture the view from the top, the lights of the park, the dark woods beyond. My pulse quickened just thinking about it. Charles grinned, grabbed a flashlight, and said, "Let's make tonight something we'll actually remember." Once we landed on the other side, the thrill hit me full force. The park looked like something out of a dream, silent, massive, and a little eerie under the faint glow of a few distant bulbs. Every sound echoed our footsteps, the hum of a generator somewhere far off. We crouched low behind a popcorn stand, scanning for the guards' flashlights before slipping deeper into the shadows. My heart pounded as we dashed across the open path, the beam of a guard's flashlight sweeping just behind us. We dove behind a ticket booth, stifling our laughter and breathing hard. The air smelled faintly of metal and old popcorn. For a moment, it really did feel like we were invisible, two ghosts wandering through an empty park built for noise and light. The metal stairs gleamed faintly under our flashlights, stretching into the dark like an endless ladder. Each step groaned under our feet, echoing through the silent park. Halfway up, the ground already looked miles away. I could feel the wind tugging at my shirt, my palms slick with sweat. Charles turned back, grinning like a maniac, whispering, "Don't look down." Of course, the first thing I did was glance down and instantly regretted it. From up there, the world looked frozen in time. The rides, the concession stands, the Ferris wheel, all bathed in pale moonlight, completely still. The only movement came from the distant sweep of a guard's flashlight far below. The air was cool and quiet, almost peaceful, and for a second I forgot how dangerous what we were doing actually was. Then Charles whispered, "This is insane." As we started descending, every sound felt louder, the creak of metal, the echo of our shoes, even our breathing. The adrenaline that had fueled us on the way up now turned into dread. Halfway down, I caught sight of our tent lights flickering faintly in the distance, and I couldn't wait to be back there. Charles whispered, almost done, but his voice shook just a little. A faint rumble broke the silence, the low hum of a golf cart approaching. Its headlights cut across the empty path like searchlights. We ducked behind a snack stand, pressing our backs to the metal wall, hearts pounding. The guard's radio crackled as he slowed nearby. I could see the shadow of this cap sweep across the ground. One wrong move and we'd be caught for sure. But then out of the corner of my eye, I caught it again, a flicker of motion, deliberate this time. It wasn't the wind or a trick of light. Something or someone was crouched between two buildings just beyond the fence of light. My skin went cold. I nudged Charles, and when he followed my gaze, his expression changed instantly. He saw it too. We weren't alone. At first, I thought maybe it was another group of kids doing exactly what we were, but something felt off. The figure's posture was strange too, still too deliberate. They weren't glancing around or reacting to the guards' lights. They were staring straight at us, unmoving, like they'd been waiting there the whole time. The air felt heavier with every passing second. I could hear my own pulse thudding in my ears. The figure didn't move, didn't flinch, just kept watching. Then a faint glint caught the light near his face, like something wet or metallic. Charles whispered my name, his voice trembling. "We need to get out of here, now." For that brief moment under the light, I caught every disturbing detail. His face was smeared with something dark, mud or maybe blood, and his eyes looked wild, unfocused. He limped slightly, dragging one foot behind the other in a jerky rhythm. It wasn't just that he looked hurt. It was like he wasn't fully aware of how his body moved. Then he vanished again into the shadows between the buildings. Every crunch of gravel under our feet felt deafening as we crept toward the fence. My flashlight stayed off, but my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. The silence behind us was worse than any sound could have been, that heavy, waiting kind of quiet. When we finally reached the fence, Charles climbed first. I looked back one last time before following him, and for a heartbeat I swore I saw movement near the snack shack again. We just sat there in silence, the faint hum of the amusement park rides in the distance somehow making the night feel even more surreal. Charles finally muttered, "You think that guy saw us?" I didn't answer because I honestly didn't know. Every rustle outside made my pulse spike. I kept imagining footsteps circling the tent, waiting for the moment we'd dare to close our eyes. Neither of us slept a second that night. As we packed up, the sun felt too bright, almost mocking how terrified we'd been hours earlier. Charles tried to joke about it, saying, "Guess we survived our first night adventure," but his laugh didn't sound real. I kept replaying that man's face, the blood, the limp, the hollow stare. Something about it didn't fit the homeless guy's story. I wanted to forget, but deep down I knew the day wasn't going to stay normal for long. The moment the staffer mentioned the suspect's description, a disheveled man, possibly bleeding, shirtless, Charles and I locked eyes. My stomach dropped. It couldn't be a coincidence. The man we'd seen wasn't sneaking. He was running from something. The cheerful chatter around the campsite suddenly felt eerie, everyone unaware how close danger had come. Charles whispered. That was him, wasn't it? I didn't answer. My throat felt dry, and all I could think about was how easily he could have turned toward us instead of the trees. I could tell Charles wanted to say something, but fear won. If we told my dad, he'd demand answers, maybe even report it, and then we'd be dragged into the whole mess. My hands trembled as I zipped my bag. Every sound around us felt sharper, every movement suspicious. We just followed orders, pretending nothing happened, even though both of us knew the truth sat heavy between us. Even now, that guilt hasn't faded. Every time I see a news story about an unsolved case or a missing person, I wonder if it's connected, if that man kept running, kept hurting people because two scared teenagers stayed silent. Back then it felt like the smart choice. Now it just feels cowardly. I wish I'd done the right thing, even if it meant facing questions I wasn't ready to answer. Sometimes when we grab a drink and the conversation drifts to old memories, there's this quiet moment, a glance between us that says everything. Neither of us needs to bring it up. We both remember the man under that dim light, the blood on his face, the way the night air felt too still. It's haunting to know how close death once stood. We weren't just reckless kids sneaking out, we were inches from a nightmare. October 2016 was a strange time to be a teenager. The whole country seemed obsessed with clowns, videos, sightings, even school lockdowns. Every night, social media exploded with new clips of painted faces lurking in alleys or fields, some fake, some maybe not. I remember scrolling through them, laughing nervously like everyone else. But that changed fast, because one night, I stopped watching those videos and ended up living one instead. The rhythmic clatter of the train mixed with the bass in my ears, drowning out the world. I leaned back against the seat, half zoned out, scrolling through my phone. Everything felt routine, the same route, the same stops, the same half-asleep commuters. I didn't even glance at who got on or off. Looking back now, that was my first mistake. Because a few minutes later I realized someone had been watching me the entire time. The train rocked gently as we sped through the tunnels, fluorescent lights flickering above. I remember glancing up once, just long enough to see the reflection of empty seats in the window, then going right back to my notes. The calm was almost comforting, that dull city kind of quiet. I had no clue that by the time I reached 96th Street, that sense of normalcy would shatter completely. The chime dinged, doors sliding open with that familiar hiss. I didn't notice at first that something was off. The platform looked emptier than usual, almost deserted. I stepped forward without thinking, still half lost in my playlist, until I realized someone was standing right in the doorway. I stopped short, my screen lighting up my face. At first I thought it was just another commuter waiting to get on, but then I looked up and everything inside me froze. For a second my brain refused to process what I was seeing. A clown here, underground, in the middle of the afternoon. His red nose gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, and the smudged paint around his grin made it look stretched, unnatural. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just stood there, filling the doorway like a barrier between me and the station. The cheerful colors of his costume somehow made the moment even more disturbing. The silence between us was unbearable. The train's engine hummed faintly behind me, but all I could hear was my own pulse thudding in my ears. His painted eyes seemed fixed right on mine, lifeless, unblinking. I waited for him to laugh, to move, to do anything, but he just tilted his head slightly, like studying me. Every instinct screamed at me to get out, yet my legs wouldn't move. The doors were still open for now. His breath smelled faintly of metal and something rotten inches from my face. I could see the uneven texture of the makeup on his skin, the cracks where sweat had smeared it. My stomach twisted as he smiled, slow, deliberate. It wasn't playful. It was wrong. In that instant, I didn't think I'd just shoved past him with all my strength, desperate to break free before the door shut. My shoes slammed against the concrete as I bolted up the platform, my heart hammering so loud it drowned out everything else. I could hear his heavy footsteps behind me, uneven and frantic, echoing off the tiled walls. Every instinct screamed, "Don't look back," but I couldn't help it. A quick glance showed him sprinting after me, knife glinting under the flickering light. My lungs burned as I aimed for the exit stairs, praying someone, anyone, would appear. The sight of the knife sent a surge of panic through me. My mind went blank except for one thought: run faster. The air in the tunnel felt thick, every breath scraping my throat. The sound of his uneven footsteps got closer, metal clinking as he dragged the blade against the wall. Sparks flickered in the dim light. I stumbled on the last step but caught myself bursting onto the street like I'd just escaped a nightmare. Standing on the sidewalk, gasping for breath, I watched the flashing lights of the patrol car fade down into the station. People walked past, unaware that a maniac had been just yards away. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Even after the officers told me he was gone and probably just some prankster, my mind wouldn't rest. Every reflection in a shop window, every passing stranger, I half expected to see that painted grin again. That night I double-locked every door and kept the lights on until sunrise. Even now, years later, I still avoid looking too long at subway doors when they open. Part of me expects to see that painted face again, frozen in that silent grin. Maybe it was just another bizarre footnote in the 2016 clown craze, or maybe I was one of the few who got close enough to know it wasn't a prank. Either way, I'll never forget those eyes. It all began during one of those strange in-between phases of life, not a student anymore, but not quite settled either. I had my degree, sure, but no real direction. My days blurred together, applying for random jobs, checking emails that never came, scrolling listings just to feel productive. I told myself I was just buying time before something better showed up, but deep down I think I was desperate for anything that made me feel useful again. It was a lifeguard job, posting nothing special at first glance, but the details made me pause. The hours were backward, the pay was unusually high, and one requirement in particular made 0 sense. They wanted someone who didn't speak Spanish. In a town where half the population did that alone was enough to make me reread the listing twice. Curiosity won before logic ever could. The job required someone to work from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., basically a night shift for a swimming pool. That alone was weird enough, but the pay rate was what hooked me $30 an hour. For someone scraping by on delivery tips, that number looked like salvation. Still, the idea of guarding a pool at midnight sounded off. Who even swims that late? I told myself money was money, but deep down something about it felt too convenient to be real. They specifically wanted someone who couldn't speak Spanish. That line stopped me cold. It wasn't just odd, it made no sense. The hotel was in a largely Hispanic area where Spanish was practically the default language. Why would that be a deal breaker? The more I thought about it, the more I felt like this job was hiding something beneath the surface. Still, the pay was too good to ignore. $30 an hour for sitting by a pool. I told myself I could just pretend not to understand Spanish if it came up. It wasn't like they could test me right. The whole thing felt shady, but curiosity and desperation make a dangerous mix. By the next morning, I had already sent in my application, half nervous, half excited. That kind of money made it easy to ignore every red flag. I didn't care if the hours were weird or if the ad sounded sketchy. I needed the cash. So I clicked apply and figured I'd fake my way through the no Spanish part. What were they going to do? Fire me for knowing too much? A few hours later, I got an email inviting me for an interview. The email said the interview would be the next morning at 10. That quick turnaround should have been another warning sign, but I brushed it off. I figured maybe they were desperate to fill the position. I ironed a shirt, printed my resume, and told myself this could be an easy paycheck. Deep down, though, I couldn't shake the feeling that something about this job didn't add up. The taller guy's stare was cold and calculating, completely different from the friendly vibe of the first man. His posture was rigid, and he didn't even blink as we got closer. The friendly guy introduced him as the supervisor, but the tall man didn't offer a handshake. He just looked me up and down like he was sizing me up for something. The air instantly felt heavier. I remember thinking, if this is the interview, I'm already failing it. He spoke rapidly, his tone sharp but casual, like he was testing me. I understood every word, something about the weather and how hot the day was, but I kept my face blank, pretending not to get it. My heart was pounding, but I forced a clueless grin and shrugged. The silence that followed felt endless until the first guy suddenly burst out laughing. Then out of nowhere, both of them started laughing like it was some kind of inside joke. The tension in the air snapped, but I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling crawling up my spine. The taller man finally cracked a smile, extended his hand, and said he was just messing with me. I forced a laugh and shook his hand, pretending everything was fine, even though part of me already wanted to walk away. Jefe had this confident, almost predatory charm about him, the kind of guy who didn't need to raise his voice to get respect. Esteban, on the other hand, gave off a friendlier vibe, though something in his eyes still felt sharp, calculating. Jefe clapped me on the shoulder and said they'd show me around. I nodded, trying to play it cool, even as a faint chill settled in my gut that I couldn't quite explain. He spoke with this smooth confidence, like he'd rehearsed the explanation 100 times. He said my role was simple: watch the pool, collect money from outsiders, keep things calm. It all sounded easy enough, almost too easy. Still, the way Hefe talked made it feel less like a casual job and more like an operation, something quietly organized beneath the surface. Hefe leaned in a little when he mentioned the last part, his tone dropping lower. If anyone came by wearing a blue wristband, I was to let them into what he called the pool house, a locked building just behind the lifeguard stand. I wasn't supposed to ask questions or go inside, just open the door and mind my own business. The way he said it made my stomach twist, like this job had rules beyond the ones written on paper. Most guests were polite families or travelers looking to cool off after dinner. Everything seemed normal, almost boring, which made me start to relax. Still, every time I glanced at that locked pool house, I felt a weird pull of curiosity. But what was inside? It was quiet, always dark, and yet I couldn't shake the sense that something was happening behind that door. He didn't say a single word, just nodded once before disappearing inside. I remembered the echo of the heavy door shutting behind him. It sounded final, deliberate. I sat there pretending to focus on the swimmers, but my mind kept drifting back to that building. An hour later, he came out again, calm as ever, but his backpack looked noticeably fuller than before. Sometimes groups of 3 or 4 would arrive at once, all flashing those blue wristbands before heading straight for the pool house. They rarely stayed long, an hour at most, and none of them ever swam. I started noticing patterns too, same cars, same times, same blank expressions. It was like watching some secret routine play out right in front of me, while everyone else at the pool pretended nothing strange was happening. His tone was sharp, almost dismissive, like I'd crossed some invisible line just by asking. Still, it didn't sit right with me. Nobody mistakenly hands over double or triple the fee every single day. I started to notice how certain guests slipped thick envelopes into the cash box when they thought I wasn't looking. Each time Hefe's words echoed in my head, "Don't worry about it," but that phrase started feeling more like a warning than reassurance. I sat there staring at the still pool water, my stomach tightening as the pieces started fitting together. The late hours, the wristbands, the overpayments, it all made sense now, just not in a good way. I wasn't a lifeguard anymore. I was a pawn in something much bigger. For the first time, I noticed a camera mounted near the pool house, its red light blinking steadily like it had been watching me all along. I spent the rest of that shift pretending everything was normal, but my pulse wouldn't slow down. Every splash, every voice at the pool felt distant, like I was underwater hearing the world from below. I kept replaying the same thought: what if they knew I knew? $30 an hour suddenly felt like blood money, yet walking away without proof could make me look suspicious. I was trapped, paid well, but watched closely. Sometimes I'd hear faint noises coming from inside, muffled voices, the clinking of glass or the low hum of a generator. Once, I even caught a brief whiff of something chemical sharp enough to sting my nose. I started timing how long people stayed in there and noticed patterns, the same faces, the same quiet exchanges. It was routine for them, business as usual. For me, it was a countdown until something went wrong. They weren't talking about swimming or vacations, they were discussing shipments, cash drops, and product. I acted clueless, nodding and smiling whenever someone addressed me, but every word tightened the knot in my stomach. It wasn't a theory anymore. I was in the middle of something criminal. From that point on, every night at work felt less like a job and more like surviving a trap. I dove in without thinking, pulled him to the edge and got him breathing again before anyone else even reacted. The whole pool went silent for a moment, then erupted in cheers. The kid's mother was crying and thanking me over and over. For the first time since starting that job, I actually felt proud of being there, though that feeling wouldn't last long. Something changed after that day. That moment flipped everything. Suddenly, I wasn't just the night lifeguard, I was the guy who saved the boss's kid. Word spread fast. The staff started treating me with new respect, and even the wristband regulars nodded at me differently, almost like I'd been initiated into something. Hefe smiled, more called me amigo, and for the first time, I felt like I truly belonged there, though deep down I knew I shouldn't. At first, everyone laughed and clinked glasses, but I caught enough Spanish to know it wasn't a celebration of my rescue, it was about profits and ruined lives. The laughter turned cold after that. I stood there smiling, pretending not to understand, while the pit in my stomach grew heavier. That's when I realized saving that kid hadn't earned me safety or gratitude. It had earned me attention, the kind I never wanted. That night, the laughter echoed in my head long after I went home. I couldn't stop thinking about how easily I'd traded my conscience for comfort, a steady paycheck, fake smiles, and silence. The pool, once just a job, now felt like a trap. I told myself I'd quit soon, but deep down I already knew something bad was going to happen before I did. As soon as I stepped into that small alcove, the noise of the pool faded, and for a moment everything felt normal again. Hearing my mom's voice calmed me. It reminded me there was still a world outside that place. But even as I talked to her, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. There was a weight in the air, thick and quiet like the calm before something snapped. His expression was cold, unreadable, and the way his eyes locked onto mine made my stomach twist. For a moment, neither of us spoke, the silence heavier than any words could be. I could see the question burning behind his stare. "You lied to us, didn't you?" My pulse pounded in my ears as he took one slow step closer. The pool suddenly felt miles away, and every instinct screamed that I was in danger. Then, without warning, a faint smile crept across his face, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. He gave a slow nod as if deciding to let it slide, but I could tell it wasn't forgiveness. It was a warning. When he finally turned and walked away, my knees nearly buckled. Every nerve in my body screamed that I'd barely escaped something I didn't fully understand. Minutes crawled by like hours. Every ripple in the pool, every gust of wind against the water made me flinch. I kept glancing toward the hotel doors, half expecting Esteban to return with others. My throat was dry, my hands trembling on the armrest. I told myself to stay calm, but deep down I knew something had shifted. I wasn't just a lifeguard anymore. I was a liability. Every night after that, I'd double-check the locks, peek through the blinds, and jump at the sound of car doors outside. Sometimes I'd swear I saw the shape of a man lingering across the street, only for it to vanish when I blinked. Sleep came in fragments, haunted by the thought of what that new opportunity might have been. Even now, years later, I still catch myself looking over my shoulder whenever I pass a hotel pool at night. Maybe I was just a cover-the-clueless lifeguard in plain sight, making everything look legitimate. The thought still chills me. I sometimes wonder if they ever replaced me or if my sudden disappearance drew attention. Part of me hopes the whole operation collapsed soon after. But another part, the darker one, suspects it's still going somewhere behind another locked pool house door. That look he gave me still haunts my dreams, cold, deliberate, almost calculating. It wasn't anger or suspicion, it was decision. Like he was weighing whether I was worth keeping alive. I left that place, but a part of me never really escaped it. Every time I hear Spanish whispered behind closed doors or smell chlorine at a hotel pool, I'm right back there staring into Esteban's eyes, waiting for his verdict. Thank you for staying until the end. If the dark didn't scare you away, maybe you belong here. Subscribe to Night Whispers and let the darkness find you again next time.